Welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast. We believe that there is a goddess inside each and every one of us. When we use our voice to share that goddess, we support and uplift each other. Join us each week as we interview women to receive the message of their goddess within.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here today. We have a really special guest, and I'm excited to hear all about her. My name is Allyson Mancini. I am your holistic nutritionist, joined here today with my amazing partner.
Hi, I'm Julietta, the magical PT. Welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, uplift, and support women in becoming the goddesses they are meant to be. So I have super welcome to JoAnna Brandi. Please introduce yourself to our audience and tell them about what you do.
Okay, that's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, first of all. This is such a pleasure to be here. I am a certified chief happiness officer. After 30 years of being in the business of customer loyalty, I began to discover that the most important thing a company can do for its customers is take good care of its people. And so 17 years ago, I had an amazing opportunity to study with Dr. Martin Seligman, who's the founding father of positive psychology. And I just got hooked. So I took a coaching course with him. And what he was trying to do is to get positive psychology was relatively new at the time. It's only about a 20-year-old science. And what he was trying to do was to get all of us who were training with him to take his material and incorporate it into our materials. So it was a natural for me because I'd spent years in and out of companies working with people, trying to get them to simply take better care of their customers. And a lot of the problems that I saw being a consultant was that the problem was that the people weren't being taken care of really well. So it was real difficult to push that energy out to the customers. So I was thrilled, and it got me hooked. So I've been hooked on positive psychology and the science of happiness now for more than 17 years. And 2 years ago, a program became available at Florida International University, and I became a chief happiness officer. So now I can offer both sets of services to my clients. Mostly what I do these days is teach positive leadership, is to create a kind of positive culture in an organization where people can thrive.
Awesome. So important out there. Yeah.
That's
and
incredible.
It's funny because I was, talking this weekend with someone about in this, pandemic times and employment out there being so, there's a lot of challenges out there, and seeing a lot of workers out there that are like pushed to their limits right now and just not thriving. And it's not good for business, but definitely a need out there to get staff taken care of.
Yeah, employee well-being, it should be up there like number one, because if we don't take care of them, they're leaving. They're just leaving. And what cracks me up, I had a friend that was in a hotel this last weekend, and she said, it's so interesting. They don't offer, she was doing a little weekend away kind of thing. She just wanted to be pampered. They don't offer room service for your own good, of course. And they don't pick up your garbage for your own good. And they don't make your bed for your own good. But the bottom line is they can't find employees anymore. People are quitting in a wave. And Gallup, there's a really interesting study that Gallup did. They call it the engagement well-being paradox. And typically, because Gallup is the research firm that studies engagement the most around the world, and typically when engagement goes up, well-being goes up hand in hand. The more engagement, the more well-being. First time in history, engagement's going up and well-being's going south. And so what Gallup is predicting, unless we do something for those employees, we're going to be dealing with massive burnout. And I think we're seeing it because as people are getting burned out, they're finding other living arrangements or other ways to make money, and they're just quitting their jobs. So we're going to be in a big crisis really soon because the economy has picked up.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
I know. And what's interesting is the amount of pushback I find I get when I talk about the word happiness. That's like the entire of corporate America is not quite ready to embrace the idea that when our employees are happy, our customers will be happier. Mm-hmm. Not quite ready. A lot of people are really smart about it. And those are the companies that are named, the 25 best companies to work for in Fort Lauderdale or wherever. Those are the companies that are really smart. They're doing really good stuff for their people so they can keep their people. But there are still companies out there that go, their happiness is not my responsibility. Well, it may not be your responsibility, but if you don't do something about it, you're going to lose them.
I'm very, very grateful. One of the women that I work for is part of my wellness business. I actually my job for her is to help her staff stay well and happy. Like that is what she and I have had this conversation. She's like, I realize that I need to invest in them because when I invest in them, they're happy. And then their clients and my customers and everybody's happy. So I'm very grateful that I work for someone that sees exactly what you're talking about. But you're right. There's a lot of places that just don't.
They don't. And what's interesting is that the science is available to back it all up because happiness can now be measured as a KPI, a key performance indicator. So those companies that have all these charts and all these things that they measure as a KPI, you can measure happiness as a KPI now.
Yeah.
And it's very predictive, which is interesting because with the research I'm referring to, we can actually predict if somebody's going to quit their job months before they quit their job just by how they fill out the survey.
Wow.
So there's a connection. There's a connection.
All right, it's time to dive into our questions. So,
yes,
first question, JoAnna.
That's right.
What is your superpower, or what would you choose it to be?
Oh, I have a whole list of those. My superpower has always been my creativity. And so every time I take one of those quizzes or strengths determiners and those kinds of things, it's generally my creativity. I like to look at things from a different point of view and bring that point of view in. If I could choose a superpower, because you got me thinking with your questions, I would like to have the sensibility of someone who practices feng shui, because I am at the other end of the spectrum. I don't know what I would call what I practice, but it's sort of like if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. So it's a little cluttered around me. So that's what I'd like at some point, to bring that sensitivity and sensibility in around, there's actually a place for everything, JoAnna.
I think I can use some of that too.
Yeah, that would be a nice superpower to invest in, I guess.
So we need, putting it out there to the universe, we need like a feng shui expert to be a guest on our show coming up.
Yes, well, I've got the perfect person for you. So there.
Ooh, all right, there we go.
Allyson, I think you're muted.
You're muted, Allyson.
I know
She's
I am.
Just nodding her head.
It's the dog is barking. That's why I'm muted.
Okay, we talked about that earlier, right? The dog is barking.
I know someone else who does a feng shui, and I can't remember who it is now. But yeah, if our audience is listening and JoAnna, you know someone. But I would love. That would be great to have someone like that on. Awesome.
Yeah. I think it's very important, because I think we are starting to understand that there are things that we can't see, but that operate as laws in our environment.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Question number 2.
Okay.
What is your favorite book, or a book that has greatly influenced your life?
Oh, that was the hardest question ever.
I know it's hard to pick one, but
thousands of them. But the one that has been calling me lately, because my books speak to me, and the one that keeps calling me to take it back out of the bookcase, and I swear every line in the book is underlined, and there are tabs everywhere, is Stuart Wilde's book on affirmations. One of my all-time favorite books. I would say my second favorite book is probably Conscious Loving by Gay and Kathlyn Hendricks. Very, very special book in my life. Another one that calls me from the bookcase every once in a while to to just remember that there's a way that we can interact with others in relationship that's really important. And then I actually wrote down a third one because it's not a how-to book for change, because most of my books are how-to books. It's called Still Life with Woodpecker. And it's an old Tom Robbins book. And it's had some magical presence in my life. So I can never let that one go, because there's just so many parts of it that had literally, brought me together with other people. And it was just books are pretty amazing in my life. They're like
we're all book addicts here, and like the exciting thing right now, because a lot of the books that come up in these conversations I have already read. You have just listed 3 books that I have not read.
And so, have you read my little illustrated book?
Have I read your little illustrated book? No.
54 Ways to Stay Positive in a Changing, Challenging, and Sometimes Negative World.
And where can we get this book?
Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or wherever they sell books. I don't keep too many of them here, but
all right.
That's a book with an entire story. That book has its own history. We reprinted it the second time, and that came out of a meditation. Because, you have a book and then it gets old and then you put it away and then you just say, well, it's old, and had no intentions of republishing it. But in the middle of a meditation, I got a very clear message that I had to republish the book, which meant I had to reconnect with my illustrator, because so many things in the book have changed. When I talk to people about put a coach on your head and take a walk, there was a picture with somebody with a Walkman. So, so many of the everyday things that we had pictures of don't look like that anymore.
Right.
So I contacted my illustrator, and we had to dredge up all of the old files, and it was an awful process. But I was hell-bent on getting it done, and thank God I did, because I found out that recently that she passed away in July. So it was very divinely orchestrated that book did not pass with her, and that it's out there. Yeah. So that's just a fun book, but the illustrations are very cool. And she meditated every one of them. So she got the manuscript, and then she would sit in meditation, and then the picture would come.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Awesome. So I have to say that Conscious Loving book by Gay Hendricks, Gay Hendricks is the author that wrote The Big Leap, Julietta.
I knew I recognized his name, so I have read The Big Leap. So
yeah, he's a great author. I love him. So I'm excited because I have not read Conscious Loving either. So
it's beautiful. And he just wrote one that I read about luck, about how to create more luck in your life.
Interesting. All right.
Got a luck affirmation in the morning, he's amazing. I actually have met him a few times, so he's just an amazing, and his wife is amazing. They are amazing people.
Nice. Cool. All right. The next question, because women in general are always taking care of everybody, and we forget to take care of ourselves. So what is your favorite self-care practice, JoAnna?
My favorite, so I have a lot of them, but my favorite self-care practice is a guided meditation, because I don't always get a lot of time away from my work. And when I and there are some great guided meditations out there. When I use a guided meditation, it's like taking a little mini vacation. It can take me somewhere else. Whereas when I have a friend right now who's just constantly telling me to unplug. She says, I can't stand to see you with those earplugs in. I'm like, okay, I get it. She goes, no, you just have to, when you meditate, it has to be, between you and God. I say, yeah, okay, once a day I do that, but the rest of the time I want to be entertained. I want a little something more, because what happens when I go into meditation in the middle of a busy day is it takes me 20 minutes to get the monkey mind to quiet down, and who did I forget to call? And, I have so many emails. Yeah. If I've got somebody talking to me and engaging me and already engaging my imagination, I slip away faster from the day to day.
And what do you use for your guided meditations?
Oh my gosh. The two things I use the most are Insight Timer and Solvana. Solvana is very interesting because when you are on Solvana, you're meditating with other people. Because they're done, it's by Mind Valley. So they've got lots and lots of other people. So and they call them immersions. I don't even think they call them meditations. They call them immersions. And they have lots and lots of different meditation teachers. And when you're in an immersion with other people at the same time. I love that idea.
Yeah, because, you were talking about research before, and, all the research shows that when people meditate together, it creates change in our world.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I like to stay tuned to Lynn McTaggart's work because she does these global meditations. She's the one that talks about intention, the power of intention. So I love being on her meditations. I've been doing heart math meditations for more than 20 years. So when they're doing a coherence meditation, I'll often jump on there. They've got people all over the whole world. And this week there was one at Eastern time, 7-11 on, I think it was Tuesday morning, whatever day, it doesn't matter. It was called Fire the Grid. And it was to meditate for 1 hour, and there was no guided meditation. You just read what you were doing, and you meditated for an entire hour on lighting up the grid, I loved it. I just loved it. Now, in that case, because I had an intention, I didn't need guidance. I just did it. It was great. Yeah.
You had a focus for it. So
I like how you pointed out, though, that I think a lot of people mistakenly believe that meditation is that, like, where you should have nothing no thought going on, no nothing, and really thoughts are going to happen. The whole thing is kind of letting those thoughts keep passing by, through, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that you brought that up, because I think that's really a misunderstanding a lot of people have. And I think it's why a lot of people don't meditate, because they feel like, I have to sit in total silence and I'm not supposed to think anything and, all this stuff. But that's so far from it. And Insight Timer is one of our favorites. We talk about it often.
It's an amazing tool. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And I pay for I don't know, what is it, $8 or something to pay for it. I pay for it so that I can, because I don't like the EMFs from my phone. So I can download it and go on airplane mode and still listen to my favorite meditations.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice.
All right. Yeah. I got a lot of tricks. I do have a lot of tricks. Also, I think it's important to meditate without noise and learn how to deal with the things in your head. But I think doing both is kind of a nice balance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Agreed.
All right. Our last question that we have for you, JoAnna, and this came out of some research that we did. We, polled our target audience before we created this podcast. And the thing that women wanted the help most with is accountability.
Oh.
So how do you create accountability in your life?
You're not asking me that question, are you? Yeah, I did see it on the list of questions you sent out earlier. I have always created accountability by having a staff, because I am much better at being responsible to others than I am at being responsible to myself. So now I'm in a little bit of a conundrum because I don't have the staff that I used to have. And so I am a little less accountable to myself because I'm not as accountable to someone else. So I do have a sales coach, so I'm accountable to him. But it brought up in me again the fact that I really do need an accountability partner. And I've done that from time to time, but it has never lasted very long. So I guess I have not found the right partner yet. Because I think we're all overcommitted, and and it's like, honestly, sometimes I think that, do I actually magically think the things on the calendar are going to move into place by themselves? While I'm over here reading my email, I have such a thirst for knowledge and for understanding that I want to know what's happening. So I'm reading Gallup, and I'm reading the psychologists right now, and I'm reading the work that's coming out of the mindfulness community and the work that's coming out of the wellness community. But by the time you do all that, you didn't get the stuff done that was actually on your calendar to do. So that's ongoing event. One thing I do, I gave myself a month off, but I have a tracker sheet that I use, and I literally write down my practices, and then there's a daily checkbox. So even if I don't do them, I am aware of what I did and what I did not do, and my sort of impromptu rule, because it's way more than any human being could actually do every day while working. But I sort of have this, if I do 6 to 8 of these practices, I'm good. So it's just a reminder to take the time to be conscious, whether it's conscious breathing or meditation or stretching or taking a walk, because there are just so many, now more than ever, so many things that have to be done. I like the written reminder. So my little chart is quite cool.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, that there's something special about writing stuff down versus, we have all this technology available to us today, and it's great, but something about writing stuff down just kind of like ingrains it energetically in a different way in our system.
I know. I think it's the tactile, and I'm very kinesthetic, so for me it's important to touch things and to write things. But I think it goes into the brain differently. I really do.
So I was just speaking of, like, I'm the same way, JoAnna. I read constantly, and I could spend my days reading about all kinds of stuff, and then I would get no work done. So I can't do that. But I was reading, I think it was just yesterday or the day before, I found an article, and I can't remember where I saw the article, but they were literally talking about how when you actually physically write, your brain retains it and learns it much better than if you type it or speak it or whatever. It's something about the way your brain and works. It just was really cool. And I'm like, yes, that's why I love to write, because that's how I remember things.
Yeah. That's why we all have lists everywhere.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Cool. So it's time for our takeaways. Allison, what is your takeaway from this podcast?
So I think my biggest takeaway is that I love how JoAnna said the accountability part. She had a staff, and now, she's working on like an accountability partner. And I appreciate the fact that those, seasons of life are different, and we've all kind of been going through a lot of different things. So your accountability can change as you're going through different seasons of life. Like you said, you use a checklist. Like I have the same thing, but I would say, I think the biggest takeaway that I've gotten out of this is listening to you speak, JoAnna, and thinking about all the interviews we've done, is accountability is a really big key. And I think having an accountability partner, whether it's one person or a small group of people, is really key. I think, especially when you're really working for certain things, because we just had this in another interview. We were talking about it, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, talking about accountability. We are quick to do things for other people, to hold ourselves accountable to other people. But a lot of times when it's stuff for ourselves, we aren't as good about it. We kind of can let that go. So I think having that accountability partner, a group of people that are kind of holding your feet to the fire, for lack of better words, and making sure that you do what you say you're going to do, I think is really important. So I think for some of the big goals I've got going on, I'm going to have to get Julietta Roper back into holding me more accountable again.
I'll do it.
All right. Sounds good.
Whenever I have done it consistently, I hold myself accountable in a different way. It's just that I also need a partner that holds themselves accountable in the same way. Because when my accountability relationships have fallen apart, it's mostly that other person isn't calling me on my bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
So instead of saying, excuse me, you got to call me yesterday at 6:30, they just don't, we just don't communicate for a few days. And then you can watch the relationship, the accountability relationship, unravel. Yeah. And then you go, or I go, maybe it was too much to ask of a friend.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're asking of a friend, it's different than asking of a business relationship or someone who doesn't know you very well. Because I think when you're doing it with a friend, it's too easy to see what happens.
So honestly, I'm really looking forward to our mastermind group, Julietta, because
well, that's what I said. This speaks to, so I don't know if JoAnna knows or not, but we're putting together a mastermind group that's going to start the end of August for women in this group that, have a big goal that they haven't been able to accomplish on their own. And we're going to get each other to accomplish those goals. So yeah, this
sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, and for anybody who has questions about that, it's on our website. It's in our Facebook group. So check it out there. And my takeaway, it never occurred to me. So I've done like group, meditations live with groups of people and have always just been like, oh, this feels so good. Like it didn't even occur to me that we could be virtually doing group meditations together. Like, I don't even know why that didn't occur. So I want to get on and try one of these. I think I just want to see what that experience is like. So cool. Thank you for opening my eyes to that. So JoAnna, what is your takeaway?
My takeaway is what you're doing. My takeaway is that you came up with an idea and you did it. And it was about talking to women. Mm-hmm. And you got it done. I have a list of a whole lot of things, including a podcast that just hasn't gotten off the ground yet. Mm-hmm. And my takeaway is that you two just said, people out there need some support. So we just did it. So my takeaway is that that's a really good model for me, is that sometimes you just have to jump in with both feet and then worry about it, worry about the details once you're in.
Yep, that's how we roll.
And it came from Alice and we had no idea how to do this. We were just like, it was an idea that came up and we're like, okay, let's make it happen. And talking about accountability, the reason it happened is that we had each other pushing each other and okay, you said you were going to do this. Okay, let's, we mapped out what are the steps that need to happen. Okay. And we held each other accountable to making it happen. And it was also about we didn't know the perfect way to do it, but we did it anyway.
And that's really what life is about. I think we don't know the perfect way to do it. I'm part of a group of women, a very small group. It started out with 5 of us. Now there's 4 of us, but we've been around for more than 5 years. And it started out with my feeling that I wasn't strong enough to hold my own vision. So I enlisted friends, and we meet once a week, every week. We have a wonderful process that it's a combination of other people's processes that works for us. So it's not so much an accountability group, but the first thing we do when we get on after we've done a mini check-in is to brag. So in our bragging, we are usually talking about what we did this week or last week or what we were proud of, because that's just such a good feeling, is to have other people magnify that back to you. But it borders on accountability in the sense that someone will say, oh, well, last week you said you were planning on doing a podcast. Did you do the podcast? So it's not quite an accountability group, but it's a beautiful support system. We are geographically diverse, but all in Florida. So every few months we get together. We've actually at one point spent a weekend together, which was magnificent. And we all call each other goddesses. So it's the power that comes when women realize that energy flows through them, that we're all goddesses. And that we all have the ability to create, and that we all have the ability to support one another, and really have to learn how to do a little bit more self-love and self-care. I think all of us.
Totally.
Yes. Amen to that, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, JoAnna, so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful having you on. And thank you to our audience for listening. And if you like what you heard, please share. This podcast is available on YouTube, on all the podcast platforms. And all the information that we talked about today and how to get in contact with our guest is all available in the show notes and the comments. So connect with them. And thank you all again. and have a magical day.
It was nice to meet you, JoAnna.
Bye-bye. Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.